Have you ever sat in that heavy silence at a family dinner? We retell those moments honest every day, sometimes controversial. Every story is a mirror. Subscribe, join the conversation, and maybe find a little healing. The wind chime on my porch rang thin and cold in the river air, the kind of sound that finds the ribs and hangs there. I stood by the front window with dirt in the half-moons of my nails, garden gloves tucked into my back pocket. Savannah light spilled through lace curtains and broke into little diamonds on the floor. The bell by the door chimed again. The phone vibrated in my palm. "Ellie, hi," Brooke said. Bright voice, sugar over glass. "Quick thing. If you want to be part of Christmas at the new place, could you come by early and help with the cleaning? We're in East Vale. You know how moving is." My hand found the brass latch. The deadbolt stuck same spot as always. I pressed my thumb to the metal and listened to the wind chime flicker. "You need a cleaner," I said. "I need family to contribute," Brooke said. A laugh that did not reach breath. Mike agrees. He says it would be nice if you helped with something useful this year. Useful. The word floated around the spotless room. The blue porcelain vases on the mantel shone. The wood floors I had buffed on my knees caught the light like water. My mother's green velvet chair faced the garden, where hydrangeas cupped a week of rain and shifted from pink to blue. I had kept this house clean long enough to know it breathed easier when no one talked down to it. "Bring your supplies," Brooke said. "You know the brand you insist on." "I know it," I said. "Good. And maybe avoid giving the kids anything too big this time. We don't want to make them feel weird." A sip, a smile I could hear. "You'll be here at 9. "Right." There was a sheet of polite silence. The wind chime ticked. I looked at the brass latch at the scratch where Mike had slammed it as a teenager, sullen and hot and unfinished. I remembered his fever-cooked nights when I pressed cool cloths to his forehead and counted breaths as if quantity equaled safety. "Enjoy your Christmas, Brooke," I said. "Sorry," I said. "Have a lovely Christmas." I hung up. The room absorbed the sound. The lace curtains sighed against the screen. I set the phone on the entry table and slipped my hands into the garden gloves again, then took them off, then lined them up straight so their fingertips aligned. The old mirror on the wall, small enough to fit in a hand, and edged in tarnished silver, caught my face from the side. I looked different in its oval glass, careful, not apologizing. Lila Paris tapped on the screen door and held up a foil-wrapped plate. "Pecan pie," she said. "Still warm." I baked 2, the other one I burned a little. Her hair was pinned up a pencil, stuck through the bun like a flagpole. She took in my chin more than my mouth, then glanced beyond me into the room. "Mira, this house looks like a magazine. It smells like lemon and old books." "Old books smell like dust," I said. "Then it smells like the good kind of dust." She smiled, then lowered her voice. "You okay, Mama Ellie?" The wind chime answered for me. "I'm fine." "Good," Lila said, though her eyes stayed soft with doubt. "Call me if you need anything. I can run to the store, or the notary, or whatever." I kissed her cheek and set the pie on the counter. A line of sugar fell from the crust and dissolved on my finger. I walked to the front door and tugged at the deadbolt again. The lock stuttered. The key bowl by the door held duplicates with little colored caps, 1 red, 2 white, 1 blue, chipped to metal. I lifted the ceramic heron on the porch ledge and touched the spare key under its base. I left it there. Habit is a kind of faith. Across the street, Gus Alvarez watered his camellias with a hose he never turned up high enough. He waved. "Morning, Ms. Hart." "Morning, Gus. You hear from Mike? He said he was headed your way earlier." Looked riled. "I hear from everyone," I said. "You need me to look at that front latch again." "I need that latch to remember who owns it," I said, and smiled so he could take it as a joke if he wanted. In the dining room, the top drawer of the sideboard stuck halfway. When it slid free, it opened on cream paper and a small passport case, soft and blue at the corners. The envelope carried a smudge of my hand where I had pressed too hard the day it arrived. I lifted it and let the light from the window catch the watermark. Lana E. The resort name, a word that tasted like hibiscus. Departure circled in black ink. Tomorrow. Below the envelope lay a manila folder with tabs labeled with my tilted hand. Bonds, dividends, will. The thin scratch where my ballpoint had pushed through the paper the year I worked extra shifts and decided $20 would go to savings, not to shoes. I ran a finger along the edge of the folder and closed the drawer. The phone vibrated again. Janelle's name bright on the screen. "Mrs. Hart," she sang. "I wanted to confirm your transfer to the resort tomorrow." We have you in the cliff suite. Ocean-facing sunrise side. Your photographer is on hold for mid-morning. He is very good. Kai Nakamura. Kind eyes. Confirm everything I said. And Janelle, one more thing. Can you make sure the balcony has a wind chime? A wind chime, she repeated, cheerful and unconfused. I will find a pretty one. We said goodbye. The chime on my porch answered in the same second as if the river wind had overheard. I walked the house. The kitchen was a neat series of squares. The fridge door carried a magnet shaped like a lighthouse and a faded Polaroid of Mike at 7 with a gap-toothed grin and muddy ankles. The hall smelled of cedar where I had sanded the wainscoting just enough to smooth it. In my bedroom, sunlight made stripes on the quilt. I laid out the coral scarf I had found last week and pressed a fingertip into the weave. The color warmed the room. Wool. Brooke's words returned in a loop that wanted to wear a groove. Useful. Bring supplies. Avoid big gifts. It is a particular gift to say things that sound reasonable while stripping you of dignity. I thought of water shifting the color of a flower by changing the soil at its feet. The phone buzzed. A message from Ruth. You coming to Ava's winter recital video. Brooke said you don't do crowds anymore. I closed my eyes. Ruth deserved more than a text. I put the phone on the bed and went to the bathroom. The mirror there was clean and mean. In it, my eyes were clear. On the vanity lay a small bottle of sunscreen last summer's nearly empty. I added it to the toiletry bag and zipped the teeth together. In the mirror, my mouth made a shape I had not seen in a while. It did not apologize for taking up space. The front door made a tired sound when I opened it. On the porch, the heron glinted. The hydrangeas held cups of yesterday's rain reflecting little pieces of sky. The river smell came up from the end of the street, salty and full of things I did not have to name. I lifted the chime with my palm to quiet it. The metal felt cool. The bell answered anyhow when I let it go. The phone vibrated again. This time the name on the screen took up space. Mike. I stared until the letters blurred. The lock on the door clicked softly as the deadbolt settled back into place. On the mantel, the blue vases held their blue as if nothing ever changed it. In the yard, a little breeze rode up the sidewalk, touched the porch, and made the chime sing once long and thin. The phone buzzed in my hand. It waited. I let it ring. It stopped. It started again. I watched my garden, the path Mike laid when he was 12, still straight as if he had cut it yesterday. The wind felt like a hand not asking for anything, just touching the edges of things. The phone kept ringing. I stood still and let the chime be the only bell that got answered. I set the phone face down on the entry table. The screen threw a faint glow against the wood, then went dark. Outside, a bird took water from the hydrangea and shook it off in a spray that looked like sequins in the light. The lock on the front door looked old and slightly proud, the brass scuffed from years of use. I reached up and touched it the way you touch a shoulder. The wind chime answered the gesture. In the quiet between rings, I could hear my own breath steady and unhurried, as if I had stepped into a room I had not visited in years and found it clean and waiting. The phone began to ring again. I did not move. I watched the river light spill through the lace and make the floor shine like water. I let the bell at the door sing one more time. I let the call go to silence. Morning came bright over the river as if someone had rinsed the sky. I packed what I had laid out, slid the passport into the side pocket, and locked the door. The deadbolt resisted for a breath, then gave with a soft click. The porch chime gave a few thin notes against my shoulder as I passed. In the rideshare, I watched Spanish moss lift and fall from the oaks and counted the slow rhythm of traffic lights toward the airport. On the plane, the air smelled like coffee and cotton. I closed my eyes when the runway blurred. When I opened them, there was ocean and a rim of green that looked painted. The small airport on Lanai was quiet. A woman in a flowered dress held a placard with my name as if it were a last name she liked saying. A breeze moved over my arms when we walked to the SUV. Far off, the sea kept opening and closing light like a hand. The resort sat on a shoulder of rock. From the lobby, the water looked like polished slate. In my suite, the balcony doors were propped open, white curtains breathing in and out. There on the hook hung a wind chime made of capiz shells. It chimed soft and clean when the trade wind touched it. I set my suitcase by the bed and stepped barefoot onto warm tile. The air tasted faintly of plumeria. The ocean smell had no mud in it, only salt and something green. Janelle called the suite to welcome me and to say Kai would arrive at 10. I showered, let my silver hair dry in the air, and chose a cobalt caftan that caught light along the seams. The old hand mirror from home felt heavier in my palm than it ever had, as if the ocean had added weight to it. I set it face down on the vanity and watched sunlight pool around it. Kai knocked exactly at 10. He had a camera at his hip and a second around his neck and eyes that looked first and spoke after. He scanned the room the way a carpenter looks at lumber. He said hello as if we had met through work. "What story are we making?" he said. "One where the bell rings when I decide," I said, then surprised myself by how steady it sounded. He smiled, not big, more like he had just gotten the right exposure. We walked the property so he could see. He tested the light on the balcony, then led the way to the path along the cliff where hardy grass tilted toward the drop. The surface of the sea had small corrugations, each one a flick of light. We shot first at the cliff rail. He had me stand with one hand on the iron and one at my side, shoulders open. The wind moved the fabric against my legs. In the photos that appeared on his screen, the water behind me looked like hammered metal. I could not hear the chime from here. The rush below filled the air and a gull cut the scene in two and kept flying. In the infinity pool, the water met the horizon without a seam. He asked me to look into the surface until I could see my face. I saw a woman's mouth I recognized and eyes that seemed almost backlit. The pool water smelled like a clean kitchen. He took frames where my reflection was almost sharp, and others where the ripples washed detail away. I leaned my palm on the warm stone lip and watched the pads of my fingers blanch and bloom. We boarded a catamaran at lunch. The deck was wide enough to blink from. A crewman with a sunburned nose offered rosé in a thin glass, and I took it and held it in front of the line where sky met water. The camera clicked while the sail filled. When the wind shifted, I heard shells chime from another boat's rigging and felt my shoulder drop as if a knot had let go. I thought of my porch chime for a second, then let the thought fall into the general blue. Back in the suite, Kai sat at the small table and culled images with a focused patience. He turned the screen to me so I could see. In one, the cobalt cloth arced behind me like a small flag. In another, my reflection in the pool cut through a cloud and made my face brighter than the real one. "These do what you wanted," he said. "They tell without lecturing." "Send me 5, I said. I will post 3. He nodded. "Give me a minute to grade the light." While he worked, I opened the balcony door wider and touched the shells. They chimed. I breathed in and out until my breath matched the small sound. The first upload went up at 2. Me at the cliff rail, ocean bright behind me, hair pulled back clean. Caption: "When a door closes, I learn to make a key." Comments began like rain that knows where it is going. Old neighbors. A woman from the library board. Lila with a row of exclamation points and a heart she knew not to send but sent anyway. I scrolled until a familiar name stopped my thumb. Ruth. "Are you okay? Mike says you do not handle crowds now. He says you skipped Ava's recital for that reason. Call me if you want to know pressure." I typed and deleted. I called. She answered on the second ring. "Ellie, I am on Lanai." "You left," she said, voice low, like she was in a hallway at work. "You sound good. Do you sound good because you are away or because you are not with them?" "I sound good because I can hear myself." Ruth exhaled. "Mike told Margot last month you were forgetting things. She told me. I did not buy it. But I did not fight it either. I'm sorry. I am not forgetting," I said. "I am remembering." She let the quiet sit. "Do you want me to start asking around?" "Do what you do," I said. I did not add words to it. After we hung up, I posted the second photo. Me with a glass on the catamaran sky and sea taking up most of the frame. Caption to second chances and new beginnings. Comments stacked again. A few were kind and unhelpful. A few were sharp and accurate. One from a woman I met at a fundraiser for the Historical Society read, "I know that water. You look like yourself." My phone rang. Unknown number. I let it go. It rang again. Brooke left a voicemail that began with my name said 3 times like she was trying keys in a lock that did not turn. The transcript came through. "How did you pay for this? You cannot act like this. Mike is sick with worry. We need you to be reasonable." There was no question mark. I did not respond. I let the ocean fill the room again until the voicemail felt like a sound from a car passing outside. Kai sent the last files before sunset, already softened around the edges, the way professionals do quickly when they know what they are doing. The third photo landed in my roll glowing. I chose the pool reflection shot. In it, my face rode on water that wrinkled over my chin and cheeks and then stilled. Caption: peace tastes like quiet. I pressed post. By dinner, the screen showed a number of missed calls that seemed like someone else's life. 12 became 21, became 37. At 44, I laughed once because the string looked made up. At 56, I stopped counting because counting became a proof of something I did not need to prove. I put the phone face down on the table and ate ceviche that tasted like lime and clean knives. Messages still stacked. I read some. Henry wrote, "Ms. Hart, you look radiant. If you need anything at your house, I will check it." A woman from the neighborhood loop sent, "Brooke says you are not well," and wandered off. Is that true? I did not answer her either. The fourth call from Ruth I took. Her voice was steady now. "I talked to Margot," she said. "She says Mike told her you had early dementia and sometimes got agitated. He asked her to limit calls. He also told Eric you refused to attend his wedding because it made you sad. Eric says he never sent you an invite. He says Mike said not to because you were not up to it." This is a lot. "I hear you," I said. "Do you want me to tell anyone anything?" "Tell them I am reachable. Tell them I am reading what they write." She nodded into the phone in a way I could hear. "I'm sorry I did not notice sooner." "You noticed when it mattered." When we hung up, the sunset went off all at once like a trick. The water broke into orange plates. The chime on the balcony answered high and light. I took a breath and sent a message to Janelle, thanking her for the chime. She replied with a photo of a bowl of orchids and the words, "You are easy to help." I slept without the television. I woke before dawn to a hush that was not silence, more like a list of soft things happening at once. The light came pink first, then gold, then plain day. Coffee from room service came in a white pot that poured neatly. I ate mango with a spoon that felt heavier than it looked. The phone vibrated with a new block of notifications. The top was from Gus. "Morning, Ms. Hart. Your boy is on your porch with a locksmith. I am filming from inside my screen door so they do not see me. Do you want me to step out or stay put?" My fingers went cold and warm at the same time. The chime answered from the balcony like it had heard something alarmed in the way I lifted my head. "Stay put," I wrote. "If they go inside, describe what you see. Do not engage. Send me the locksmith truck name if you can." He sent a photo of the van, a close shot of the logo with a phone number and the word emergency in red. He sent a second of Mike at my door profile, tight hands, making the shape of insistence. The third one was a grainy still from his video mic and another man inside the entry, shoulders bent together in a corridor of light. The image made me feel the hallway rug under my feet as if I stood there. My phone rang with another unknown number. It stopped. It started again. The ocean kept its good work of glittering like it was paid to do so. Gus texted, "They are going through the desk in your dining room." He included a photo across the street through a gap in his drapes. I could see the edge of my sideboard, the manila folders I had labeled by hand. A moment later, another picture arrived. The locksmith carried a box. Mike held the door with his foot. Paper corners showed in the gap where the lid did not meet the sides. The balcony shells breathed in the wind and touched one another. The sound was light and exact. I stared at the box until the photo was the only thing in the room. I stood on the balcony with the photo of the box on my screen until the ocean steadied the room. The shells touched and made a small, bright sound. I put the phone on the table and called a number I had saved years ago but never used. "Patel Law," a voice said. "This is Eleanor Hart," I said. "I live in Savannah. If someone uses a locksmith to enter my home without my consent and takes my financial papers, what is that?" There was a small pause, not confusion, only care with words. "It is unlawful entry and interference with private records," she said. "If you know the parties, it does not change the law." "Where are you?" "On Lanai." "I have photos from a neighbor. They are in my house now. My son is there." Another man is carrying a box. "Mrs. Hart," she said, "when you are back, come straight to my office. We will document everything. In the meantime, ask your neighbor to avoid contact and to keep any captures he has. If you have a door camera, do not erase footage. Do you want me to call the police for a wellness check and record of entry?" "I want them out of my house," I said. "I want a record. I want this to have a name." "It does," she said. "It has a few. I will be here." We hung up. I called Ruth. She answered with my name before the first ring finished. "They are in the house," I said. She listened without asking for proof. "Tell me what you need." "Ask the family to come to your place tomorrow morning," I said. Say you are worried about me and want to talk in person. Ask the neighbors who know me to come. Do not tell them I asked. Do not tell them I am away. I will do it, she said. Ellie, I am sorry for every time I did not pick up on this. You picked up, I said. You are on the line now. I called the airline and changed my return for tonight. The agent spoke like a person who moves people across maps all day and still cares that they get there. It took 4 minutes and ended with a seat number I wrote on my palm because the pen was a little dry. I opened the balcony door wide, the room filled with air that had not been inside anything yet. I scrolled to the image Kai had sent me of the hotel door with its old brass keyhole. It looked like a small coin set into wood. I framed the shot, my hand on the plate, my palm level with the lock. The Kappa's shells chimed once in the background. I posted it with a caption that felt like a true sentence. Some doors only open from the inside. Messages poured in and then slipped past. A few cut at me with kindness shaped like strings. Others landed and sat there like clean stones. One came from an address with a child's string of letters. The name tag said Ava. Grandma, are you sick? Mom says you are confused. Your pictures do not look like that. I miss you. I typed erase, then typed again. I am not sick. I miss you. I am safe. I am home soon. A heart sticker appeared, then a second message. Can I come over tomorrow? I want to ask you about keys. I sat with that. A child asking about keys has a reason. I sent, I will be here. I packed again. It took less time to put things back than it had to lay them out. I wrapped the hand mirror in a scarf and slipped it into the side pocket. I touched the shells one last time. They answered with a light that is sound and not light at the same time. The flight back moved from green to blue to brown and then to the soft gray of home. Spanish moss hung from the live oaks like long sleeves. The air held heat that had learned to be polite with age. Gus waited in his truck near the arrival sign and lifted his hand out the window when he saw me. Ms. Hart, he said, you look like you ate sun for lunch. It was on the menu, I said. He drove the quiet way along streets where the houses knew one another. We did not talk much. The radio made a small buzz like a fly with nowhere to land. At my street, he slowed. Do you want me to walk you in, he said. I do, I said. Stay behind me. The porch smelled like the place itself. Lemon oil, dry roses, a hint of river. I fit the key and felt the deadbolt catch in the same stubborn notch and then move. The door gave with a sound that had been mine for years. We stepped inside. The light through lace made a familiar pattern on the floor. Nothing looked wrong at a glance. That is how violation behaves. It sits exactly where it happened and does not move a cushion out of place. In the dining room, the top edge of the sideboard showed a shine where a box had slid and left a light arc. The manila folders were stacked, but the order felt different, as if a hand with a different history had made the pile. I opened the top drawer. A hair from a brush I do not own lay across the brown paper, a pale line. I lifted it and dropped it in the bin like it was a grass blade. Do you want me to stay? Gus said. I will be fine, I said. Thank you for the photos. You are welcome, he said. He hesitated. Mike looked tired. He did not look like himself. That does not explain anything. It explains a face, I said. After he left, I locked the door. I went to the hardware store on Victory Drive where the air smells like rubber bands and metal. The clerk with a tattoo of a blue jay showed me a new deadbolt and a door camera that looks like an eye. I carried them home in a paper bag that held a small clatter. I set the bag on the hall table and rolled up my sleeves. The old deadbolt came out with steady turns. The screws had rounded maybe a little, and one dropped, bounced on the wood, and landed in a crack I could reach. I fitted the new lock in and felt its weight settle. When I turned the fresh key, the sound was clean and certain, the door camera installed without a fight. The little lens watched the porch. I watched it back for a second to see what it saw. I printed 3 of Kai's photos at the place on Habersham that does things late for wedding parties and people who remember birthdays at 9. They came out with colors clean enough to argue with memory. I brought them home and set them against the mantel where the blue vases looked richer next to that water. I put the hand mirror on the table with the manila copies I had made years ago and did not know I would need. I walked through the house as if a guest might arrive at any minute. In a sense, one already had in the shape of what had been taken. Ruth called to say she had reached Margot and Eric and also Mrs. Whitcomb from the end of the block. She said they would come in the morning. Her voice held a new shape, a kind of muscle only used when you mean it. I thanked her and asked her to bring Ava if her mother would allow it. I did not make an argument. I let the wind carry what it would. Night settled in slow and honest. The porch light fell in a cone on the step. The camera glowed a tiny ring. Inside I brewed tea because it made the kitchen smell awake. I looked at the fresh lock again and touched it. It was cool then warm under my fingers. My hand knew what to do with it, and that was the point. My phone buzzed. A number I did not have. I set it down without answering. It stopped. It started again. I let the ring expire and opened the curtains instead. The yard lay calm. The path Mike laid at 12 still ran straight with brick he set in place with his own hands. A bird dipped to the hydrangeas and came up with a drop of water on its beak. The drop fell, and that was the whole event. I set my bag by the chair and laid out the papers on the table in a way that made sense to me and would make sense to someone looking. The trust statements. The bond coupons with dates that made a slow patient parade across decades. The will with a signature that used to be the last word on the matter. The hand mirror sat among them like an old witness who does not raise her voice. The door camera chimed softly on my phone. I glanced down to see the view of my own porch. Nothing moved but the shadow of the crepe myrtle. I let that small live picture sit in a corner of the screen while I wrote a short note on a card for the table. It said only names and dates and the word copied. I do not know who I thought I was informing. Maybe myself. A sound from the phone that was not a ring. A text tone. The sender was a child again. Ava. Grandma, can I come in the morning? I can come with Aunt Ruth. I found a key at our house. I do not know what it opens. Mom says it does not matter. I think it does. I read it twice. I typed, come. Bring the key. Then I set the phone beside the hand mirror. The mirror caught a small piece of my face. The key on the phone caught a small piece of my mind. The lock on the door was new, and it felt right under my palm. The wind moved through the hydrangeas outside. The house drew a breath that I could hear. Morning laid a clear pane of light over the floors. The door camera blinked to life and showed Ruth on the porch with a plate wrapped in a towel. Behind her came Aunt Margot, Cousin Eric, Mrs. Whitcomb from the end of the block. Then Gus with his cap in his hand, his wife beside him. Lila arrived last with a box of paper cups and a look that could cut through talk. Inside the house held the cool of early day. I set 3 frame prints on the mantel, the cliff, the pool, the catamaran. On the dining table, the hand mirror shone like a small coin between manila copies that told a long, patient story in dates and lines. The new deadbolt turned with a whisper. The bell in the door camera chimed once on my phone. I let them in. They stepped around the entry as if the place were delicate. Aunt Margot touched the lace at the window and said it looked like the lace at our grandmother's house. Mrs. Whitcomb, tall and neat, stood by the chair and took everything in without speaking. Thank you for coming, I said. Sit if you can. Stand if that feels better. Ruth set the plate down and did not try to cover the reason we were here. I asked them because I was told things that were not true, she said. I wanted ears that are not mine. Gus shifted his cap and looked at me to be sure. I nodded. They were on your porch with a locksmith yesterday, he said. I filmed from behind my screen. They went in. They went straight for your desk. I saw your boy carry a box. I did not go over because you told me not to. Thank you, I said. Lila looked at the floor, then at me. I have heard the way she talks to you, she said. Like you are staff. The last time I dropped off a pie, she told me you get attached to the wrong kind of gift, and it makes the kids feel bad. She said it like a joke, but not really. Mrs. Whitcomb cleared her throat. I was told you were unwell and preferred to be left alone, she said. I baked a pound cake and almost brought it, then I did not. I am sorry I did not knock. Thank you for telling me that, I said. The bell chimed again. On the camera, Mike stood with Brooke and a young man in a gray suit. Mike's eyes looked like they had not slept. Brooke held a bag that was too small for anything real. The man in the suit checked the address as if he were about to deliver a package. I pressed the latch. The deadbolt turned clean. They stepped inside, saw the faces, and stopped as if the floor had been a step lower than they expected. The lawyer looked at the prints on the mantel, then at the table, then at me. Brooke's mouth made the shape of a smile and stayed there without landing. What is this, Mike said, and at least it was his voice. People who know me, I said, come in. They did, but only by a foot. The circle of bodies made a kind of room inside the room. Ruth stood near me like a small tree that bends, but does not break. The lawyer spoke first. I am Carter. I am here as a consultant. To do what I said. To discuss options for your safety, he said, choosing his words like they might bite him. My safety needed a new deadbolt, I said, and looked toward the door. It has one. Gus lifted his phone but did not play the video. I saw you with a locksmith, he said to Mike. That is not safety, that is entry. Mike rubbed the place above his eyebrow. I was worried, he said. We did not know where you were. You were not answering. You have known where I am for years, I said. In this house, at this table, inside this skin. You did not knock. Brooke took a step forward. Ellie, we need to be careful. People in this room are not involved. This is a private matter. If it were private, you would have kept it so, Ruth said. You told Margot that Ellie has dementia. You told Eric not to invite her to his wedding because she was not up to it. You told Mrs. Whitcomb she was too depressed for visitors. That is a public shape you made out of a woman. Brooke's hand found the bag again and held it like a child holds a coat. I did not mean harm, she said, then swallowed. I wanted order. The lawyer shifted, ready to earn his fee. Guardianship is a legal tool when someone cannot manage their affairs, he said. It is not meant to be punitive. I can manage my affairs, I said. I have copies on the table and a passport with fresh ink. You can see both. I turned the manila copies so the names faced the room. Bond coupons from years when I ate beans and bought no shoes. Statements with steady numbers. The old will with the line that had carried the weight of habit. The hand mirror caught the window and sent a thin strip of light across the page. I am revising these, I said, and placed a pen beside the folder. My grandchildren will have an education fund handled by the bank. No one else will hold that money. The rest will go to a fund that knows what women like me look like when people talk over them. If you want to know the name, I will tell you when it has one. Mike sat without asking if he should. The chair made a small sound. Brooke's face folded in on itself and then opened again like paper that cannot find its old crease. You are punishing us, she said. I am drawing a line, I said. Here's what you will do if you want to cross it. You will sit with a counselor and tell the children the truth about what you said. You will see a therapist and do the work that keeps this from happening again. You will write to the family and the neighbors and correct the record without excuses. You will not come here without an invitation. If you cannot do those things, I will pursue legal remedies. Mrs. Patel is expecting me. The lawyer's head turned a fraction when I said the name as if a new door had opened behind him. Brooke looked at Ruth as if a sister by marriage could be a sister now. I was afraid, she said. I thought if I did not control it, I would lose him. Mike lifted his face. He had been a boy in this room with a fever once, and I had counted breaths. Now he counted something else. I let it happen, he said. I liked the quiet it gave my house. I traded it for you. I am sorry. I do not think that helps, but I am saying it. Lila leaned forward, elbows on her knees. Then stop talking over her, she said. Start doing what she asked. Mrs. Whitcomb nodded once like a judge at the end of a small case. Aunt Margot drew a cross on her chest without thinking and looked annoyed with herself for doing it. I picked up a ring of keys I had set in a little bowl by the edge of the table. The metal made a soft noise that people know without naming. I set the ring down where everyone could see. These open closets, a shed, a cabinet. Not the front door, I said. From now on, if you want to come in, you knock. You wait. You ask. You do not find another key. You do not make one. The door camera chimed a small sound like a bird tapping glass. I glanced at the screen. Ruth had sent a message 5 minutes ago that she was bringing the kids later if that was all right. I had not seen it. The live view now showed a pair of sneakers at the edge of the mat and a hand I knew from photographs. Come in, I said to Ruth through the intercom. I turned the deadbolt. It moved clean. Ava stepped into the entry holding a key by a ribbon. Jack stood behind her, younger eyes big and careful. Ruth kept a hand near each shoulder, not touching unless asked. Ava looked at the ring on the table, then at the one in her hand. I found this in a drawer at home, she said. It is labeled Grandma. Mom said it is old. Does it open your door? Her voice had no tremor. It had a question that mattered. No, I said. That key opens a little chest in my bedroom. It holds photos and a shell and a letter I wrote to myself when I turned 50. It is yours to keep if you want to open it with me later. The front door has a new lock. Ava held the ribbon up to see the key better. It caught the light and made a small flash. Jack stared at the hydrangeas through the lace, and then at the blue vases, and then at me as if he were learning a map. Brooke pressed her hands together. She did not speak. Mike looked at the floor and then at his daughter. I slid a smaller key across the table toward Ava. It was shaped like a star and had a tag with a word I had written in black ink. Library, I said. It opens the cabinet where I keep the field guides and the atlas. You may come with Ruth and use it whenever you like. You will ring the bell and wait. I will open the door. Ava reached for the key and paused, her eyes on mine. Thank you, she said. She put the star on the ribbon next to the old key and held them together in her palm. The house listened. The porch chime light in the late morning gave a single clear note. The new lock sat quiet and sure in its plate. The prints on the mantel threw water into the air without making anything wet. Mike rubbed his face once, like a man waking. Brooke's hands fell to her sides. The lawyer looked at his folder as if it had changed weight. Ruth stood very still next to the children. She looked at me and I at her, and in that look there was not a plan or a promise, only a room full of people and a door that had learned to move when asked. The new house sits where the marsh begins to think about the ocean. Mornings arrive with a thin silver line on the water and birds that sound like pencils on paper. The porch holds a small table, 2 chairs, a pot of lavender, and a wind chime with Capiz circles that flash when the sun comes up. Words are etched on the top piece in letters no one can see from the street. Ring if respected. Inside, the front door takes a key that turns without hesitation. The lock accepts the metal and gives it back. The bell inside the door camera has a single clear tone. I hear it now and then, not all day. A knock. Then the chime in the camera. Ruth on the porch with lemonade in a glass jar and 3 small shadows that move ahead of her. I open. Ava goes straight to the little hook by the shelf, lifts the star key with the tag that says library and holds it out like a ticket. May I, she says. You may, I say. She fits the star into the cabinet by the hall. It opens on field guides and an atlas that falls open on coastal maps. Jack pulls a stool over, puts his elbows on the counter, and traces a blue line from the river to the sea. Miles sits on the floor and stacks the nature cards until they make a tower that tilts and rights itself and tilts again. Ruth sets the jar on the table. She studies my face without trying to hide that she's doing it. You sleep, she says. I do, I say. You. I sleep, she says. She puts 2 lemon slices into her glass and does not talk about anything that hurts. The room does not need a list. The refrigerator holds a magnet shaped like a lighthouse and a printout with days and times. The names on the page are for appointments that happen in another house. I do not point to it. I do not need to. When Ruth's eyes find it, she nods once and pours lemonade. The door camera chimes again. The screen shows Mike on the porch, alone, hands in pockets, shoulders low as if he expects the weather to change. I open. He stays on the mat. May I, he says. You may, I say. He steps in and stands by the table without reaching for a chair. He looks at the manila copies in a neat stack, the 3 frame photos from Lanai, the blue vases that have found a place here like they belong to the bones of the house. I wanted to tell you in person, he says. We met with the counselor. We met with the kids with a woman who knows how to talk to children about things that should have been simple. We wrote letters, we handed them, not sent. We stood on porches. He stops. He looks out the window at the marsh and seems to count something there. I'm not asking for a reply, he says. I wanted the words to be in this room. Thank you, I say. He nods. His eyes are damp, but it is not the kind of wet that spills. He looks toward the hall. Ava lifts her head from the atlas and lifts a hand without standing. He lifts one back. He puts his palm on the doorframe and takes it away as if it were hotter than he thought. Your lock looks good, he says. It does, I say. He goes. The camera chimes politely when the porch empties. Ava closes the atlas and holds up a drawing. It shows the front of the house with the porch and the chime and a sky packed with small birds. She draws my hair as a neat white curve. She hands me a crayon. Add your flowers, she says. I draw hydrangea that lean toward purple and a pot of lavender that looks like fireworks. She watches my hand as if I'm doing something rare like catching a fish with a string. Later, I take the elevator to the 2nd floor of a small building near the square, a brick structure with a clean stair and a window that looks over a row of oaks. The sign by the door is simple. Silver compass. The office is 2 rooms and a long table. The walls hold black and white photographs of women whose names are printed in small letters that match the size of their smiles. A tray by the entrance holds keys that open a supply closet and a cabinet with paper and a safe with a dial. I turn the dial for practice, then turn it back because there is nothing inside yet that needs the dark. The phone on the desk rings. A woman's voice comes through. She says her name is Linda and she is 68 and she has a meeting with her son this afternoon. Her sentence breaks once, then finds itself. Do you have a minute? She says. I do, I say. Tell me where you are. She tells me the street, then the room, then the way light lands on the floor at a certain hour. She tells me her son is good at his work and clumsy at home, and that he has never taught himself the difference between those two things. She says she is afraid she will go soft at the table the way a candle goes when the air does something to it. Keep a glass of water near you, I say. Drink from it when you do not know what to say. Silence belongs to you. She breathes once and then again. Thank you, she says. I did not know how to make my hands still. You do now, I say. You will ring the bell and wait. You will open when you are ready. She thanks me. The line clicks gentle as if it set itself down on a soft surface. I sit for a second with the phone in my hand and then place it on the cradle. The window shows a thin line of river light at the edge of view, a piece of brightness that found a way into a city street. Back at the house, afternoon fills the rooms like a slow tide. The star key rests on the hook. The hand mirror sits on the entry table beside a small ceramic bowl that holds a handful of shells I brought home in my pocket and washed one by one in the sink. The mirror reflects a sliver of the ceiling and a piece of the picture frame. I pick it up and look once. The woman in it looks like a person I might talk to on a train. I set the mirror face down. The camera chimes. Brooke stands on the porch with a letter in both hands. No bag. No lawyer. The wind lifts a strand of her hair and puts it back down. May I, she says. You may, I say. She steps inside and takes in the smell of lemon and old paper. She does not look toward the table. She looks at me. I am teaching the Tuesday group at the senior center, she says. We do chair stretches and small weights. I clean the room after with a mop that looks like a person. I thought you should know, but I'm not telling you to think anything. She holds out the letter. The paper shakes a little. The handwriting leans left as if the words had to hold each other up. I wrote about things I did and things I said, she says. I wrote words I said to other people about you and wrote them again to you because they sounded different. I'm not here to ask for a verdict. I am here because I did not want anyone else to carry this envelope. Thank you, I say. She nods. Her chin tenses and then loosens. She puts her hand on the edge of the table and then takes it away. She looks at the star key and does not reach for it. She goes. The bell in the door camera sounds once in a way that feels like a breath out. Evening sits down. The marsh lets go of light slowly and then fast. The capiz circles on the chime catch a last small flare and go pale. I carry 2 glasses to the porch and set them on the table, though there is no one here but me. The air smells like salt and cut grass and something sweet from a neighbor's kitchen. A car passes. A bicycle whisper clicks. From inside the quiet hum of the new lock waiting to be used if needed. The path to the porch shows the careful line of bricks that can be walked in 2 steps or 6, depending on the legs that do it. I hear a distant train call the empty part of the evening and be answered by nothing. Inside the library cabinet stands open on the atlas. A ribbon holds a page where the river spills into the sound. The star key is back on its hook. A second hook waits next to it for a second key that has not found its home yet. The hand mirror rests with its face to the wood. The 3 frame photos throw blue and silver into the dark like small lanterns. On the porch, the wind chime rings once. It is not a warning. It is not a call to duty. It is a note that says the air moved and was noticed. I touch the new lock with my fingers and feel the cool of the brass. I look at the water where it lies quiet and then catches the last light and looks like a row of coins. I sit and drink what is in my glass. The house makes a sound like a person settling into a chair. The key in my pocket sits still. The river keeps its line. The night arrives without knocking. Thank you so much for listening to today's story. If this story resonated with you or made you reflect, I'd love to hear your thoughts, so feel free to share them in the comments below. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you won't miss the next story. I'll see you next time as we continue exploring more journeys and lessons together.